We have 3 games to judge the Dodgers versus the Yankees at this point. So let us discuss the question. What does this weekend showdown series say about Aaron Boone's Yankees and how they match up with the Dodgers? Because they did lose the series. They might have won the game on Sunday, but they lost the series. So I've got atomic, high mileage, and moon landings. And we will combine all of these things together, and we are going to make the baba ganoush is what we're going to make, with a side of poutine. All right, so now I realize that it is June. I have been reminded it is June, and we know people are going to say, it doesn't mean anything. It's June baseball. But I look at it like horse racing, right? And these teams will be much different by the time we get down to the end of the regular season and then October and all that stuff. But it's like you're watching the Kentucky Derby, and at the quarter pole mark, you look to see who's in the lead. Now, it doesn't mean that horse who's in the lead is going to win, but it gives you a pretty good indication that at that point in the race, that horse is doing very well in the race. We do the show today, right? We do the show today. And so today, at this moment, the New York Yankees have some explaining to do. They got some catching up here, and it was a much bigger series. I think every man, woman, and child can agree. A much bigger series for Aaron Judge and the Yankees. He hit some home runs over the weekend, but a much bigger deal for the Yankees at this point to get a little bit of payback and just let everyone know, hey, the Yankees are a highfalutin team and all this stuff. And it's not going to be the same situation as last year when Aaron Judge futzed around in center field. And one of my favorite defensive plays I've ever seen in postseason. People talk about Bill Buckner and his boner at first base for the Red Sox back in the day. Aaron Judge misplaying a routine ball in center field. Chef's kiss, in my humble analysis. So how did the series go for the Yankees? So they win on Sunday, but if you look at the first 2 games of the series, instead of payback, a battered roster for the Doyers, a battle-scarred unit that they sent out there, pitching staff completely flea-bitten, the lineup weather-bitten as well, and they outscored the Yankees the first 2 games of the series, 26-7. They put up 18 runs on Saturday. And the big one, though, was on Friday. And that's the one that is a kick to the nuts for the Yankees. They went out and they lost Juan Soto, and they got Max Fried. And they got Max Fried for big games against teams like the Dodgers. And Max Fried had tight Tuchus syndrome against the Dodgers in that game on Friday. And it was glorious to see. And it's embarrassing for the Yankees. When you consider Mookie Betts, he supposedly hurt his Tootsie at his house. I'm skeptical. I always think there's more to those stories. When I hear baseball players getting injured like that, I always say there's something else going on. Was he the Karate Kid? Was he kicking something? I don't know. But anyway, overall, for the Yankees, this was the atomic wedgie for them to come in here, and they had kicked ass. I think they swept the Angels. They played very well, won their last couple of series in dominating fashion, and they go into Dodger Stadium, and they were strutting in there like a peacock. They had their feathers up, and they just got punched the first 2 days, bludgeoned. And so Brian Cashman, who's the nerd emeritus, Brian Cashman and his roster of players, hand-picked players because of the analytics, against the Dodgers players and their analytics, the overall grade, again, we're looking at the overall grade here, Dodgers and Yankees. You look at the overall grade here, and you're like, hey, wait a minute. The players were standing around there, and they looked a little bit confused on Friday, and certainly on Saturday. They were gobsmacked, like they just walked into some kind of algebra exam, and they had forgotten to study for most of the weekend. They didn't do any studying. And again, the Max Fried debacle was the big one. The Dodger lineup without Mookie Betts, and they really roughed up Fried in that game. And so the Yankee apologists will be, everything's fine, don't worry about this. We'll get him in October. And I don't know about that. But at least you have those VHS tapes of the great Yankee dynasty of the 90s. You can go back and watch those old VHS tapes. Now, meanwhile, to Arizona we go. A snap, crackle, pop goes the season. Well, not yet, but it's looking that way. The big free agent pitching move of the offseason, not exactly working out that well right now for the team that calls themselves the Diamondbacks. If you did not see this, Corbin Burns, Mr. Burns of Arizona, set for the dreaded MRI on his tender elbow. He left the start on Sunday after 70 pitches. So, question. Can you put into context what this Corbin Burns injury means in Arizona? So I'll keep it simple, right? This is not a body blow, it's a gut punch is what this is. And the Diamondbacks were in the World Series a couple years ago. They still think of themselves as this darling of October baseball that all they have to do is get in, and then they've got the kind of team, a bunch of pesky hitters that they can make this big run. And if you look at Burns, though, his velocity was down, which is generally known as a dead giveaway. A dead giveaway. There are some serious issues. The thingamajig and the whatchamacallit are not exactly working right there. And Burns, this is kind of a big deal. He signed a 6-year contract for $210 million this offseason for the Diamondbacks. And everyone was like, what are you doing when they signed with that contract? Like, this is a guy that had shown signs with the Orioles of decline. There were some red flags. We had mentioned them in previous Maller monologues about Burns showing some signs of being a ticking time bomb and tick, 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 tick. And while this is not officially kaboom, it's down kaboom highway is what it is. And we'll see. Torey Lovello, the manager of the Diamondbacks, says he's, quote, more than minimally concerned. Okay, no kidding. Thank you very much. This is not just some kind of blip on the radar here. This is a potential iceberg, and you very rarely see icebergs in the greater Phoenix area, especially as we go into June and July and all that stuff. But the Diamondbacks are floundering. They're a sub-500 team at this point, struggling to stay afloat in a division with the Doyers and the Padres and the Giants, who've been okay, although not as good as they were at the beginning of the year. All right, now, last word. You know that this show is built on losers. The Ben Maller Show. We love losers. And there is no bigger loser story than in Colorado. I said New York, but this series was in New York, or Queens, Flushing. But it involves the Colorado Rockies, the team in Colorado who got swept by the Metropolitans. Now, that's not surprising. What is surprising, it is now official. It has been rubber stamped. It is a done deal. The Rockies have played 59 games, and they have lost 50. That is the worst record in the history of professional baseball since 1901. That's 120-plus years of baseball, and no one has reached the level of suckage as the 2025 Colorado Rockies. This is the era for teams that blow. You had the White Sox last year. Now you've got the Rockies. But the Rockies, the first team ever to lose 50 before they won 10. Do you realize how hard that is to lose 50 before you win 10? Like, just showing up and going about as a professional, you're going to win. Roughly, as the old line goes, the great late Tommy Lasorda used to preach, and I heard this many times from Lasorda. Every team's going to win 50 games. They're going to lose 50 or win 60 and lose 60. It's what you do with the other games. That's what matters. Okay, so the Rockies have been swept 10 times in 20 series. They've been swept 10 times. That is tied for the most sweeps in 20 series with the 1962 Mets. And the 1970 Milwaukee Brewers, not a team that is very memorable, unless you're, I guess, in Wisconsin. And the 1994, what used to be called the Oakland Athletics, back when Oakland had a team. But now they're just a nomad team that doesn't exist in Sacramento. But you're not allowed to say that. So, what is the word? What is the word that describes the 2025 Rockies. So after a thorough review of all possible words, the word I will use is the H word, helpless. They are absolutely helpless. See, the thing that's wild is you talk to old school baseball people, they romanticize suck. Like the Mets, the 1962 Mets with Casey Stengel, romanticized. This is a magical team. There have been books written about them, documentaries about them. It was a magical bad team. There's nothing redeeming about the 2025 Rockies. They're not entertaining in a bad way. They're not entertaining in a good way. They're just garbage. That's what they are. It's wild. You'd think you're so bad at 9-50 that there's something where you feel empathy for them. But that 9-50 is not a baseball record. It's like that's a cry for an intervention is what that is. It's like a basketball record that you're trying to tank for the top pick. I mean, my God, since 1901, think about this. Since 1901, we've had multiple world wars. We've had moon landings. The internet has been invented. Television and radio have been invented. And not once since 1901 has anyone in Major League Baseball been so pathetic after 59 games as the 2025 Colorado Rockies. And spoiler alert, the Rockies said, hey, hold my Coors Light. Of course, they said, hold my Coors Light. And then, of course, they drop it as they handed it to you. And just another error for the Flotsam and the Jetsam here as, like they're auditioning for some kind of reboot of they're not trying to leave Colorado. You think Major League, maybe Bad News Bears. Major League, they'd be trying to go to somewhere where it's sunny and get out of Colorado. It's not that. It's just they're just bad. And they're not really rebuilding. I don't believe in rebuilding anyway. They're not intentionally being bad. They're just bad, which is a special kind of bad. It's on the spectrum of bad. It's beyond bad because if you're trying to be bad, like the White Sox were trying to be bad, and they're bad. Like the Rockies they're like somewhere stuck in the middle. It's very bizarre what's going on. And somewhere the owner of the Rockies is sipping a cocktail and hanging out in some luxury box somewhere watching these games, having a grand time as the team rolls out diarrhea on the field. No plan, no vision, and no reason to go out. If you're going to watch, if you're in Colorado, like why would you go to the game? I mean, maybe to see the other team. But there really needs to be some kind of sustained boycott. It does work. If nobody's showing up, that gets people's attention. If nobody's watching the games on TV and people aren't going to the games, you do get attention. The Rockies years ago actually led baseball in attendance. Of course, I think at that time they played, if I remember, they played in the old Broncos Stadium, but they led baseball in attendance for years. They had actually entertaining teams. And that damn humidor, it's the humidor. That ruined it. I blame the humidor. That and an owner who doesn't know what he's doing. Rich guy. Why did you buy a baseball team? The whole point of buying a baseball team if you're a rich guy, I would think, would be to flex and to brag. And you make money, but you can make money doing other stuff. You don't have to own a sports team. So why would you buy it and then just have a floundering, pathetic roster? Not even put any effort in it. It's wild to me.